the beauty of God's speed I bring with me, and the qualification of that idea is a magnificent concept when viewed from our level. For we are concerned that the students should forsake the idea of the passage of time or of the occupation of space, and think in terms of occupying qualities. We reference here then those qualities that are so abundantly the graces of God, the manifestations associated with the ideas of Him, the beauty of the divine Om, the love of the cosmic home. Will you then understand that an entering in to God's grace is not a mere motion that occurs amidst the elements of creation? It is the accepting gently in the consciousness of those profound and moving cosmic ideas that will regenerate the soul in man, that will enable it to enter into its native element, the consciousness and being of God, and occupying the space within man, filling the chalice of his heart and brimming over the lip thereof, flowing everywhere as the divine Tao. Let men realize then that God, who flows everywhere and is everywhere at the same time that he flows, is in a state of constant motion at rest. This idea of inertia, this idea of flow, this idea of reality betwixt unreality may at first seem strange. But if the students will pause to reflect that long before you drew a breath in any embodiment whatsoever, long before you manifested in form, you were a part of the boundlessness of the divine, the great ocean of cosmic identity, and the creative power of God, the universal Logos. You will recognize that you are a manifestation of the moving and living Word, the vital and vibrant Christ consciousness. I am Mercury, and as a messenger of God, it is my wish to convey to you the power of true divine speed, a speed fixed in graciousness, a speed that is unmoved by the vicissitudes of worldly ideas, by the fluctuation of human thoughts and feelings. Won't you then, hearts of light, forsake right now, right here and now, all those ideas that are so self-limiting? Won't you let go of the concept that a certain lapse of time must occur before you can realize God? Won't you let go of the concept that heavy labor lies ahead, and instead provide for yourself a great conductor, a causeway of light, joy, and happiness? One of the great facility pathways from the heart of God is what we will term the beam of cosmic happiness. This, like the beam of a transcendent lighthouse, sweeps throughout the cosmos, pulses in all directions, and conveys the idea of the boundless expression of God. It provides a link for little hearts who have scarcely realized even a very small portion of themselves, let alone having opened their eyes into higher realms. Yet within the denser manifestation of individuality, there is also a radiant glimpse afforded man from time to time, which helps him to maintain his sanity and peace. For without the grace of God expressed in his heart in subtle ways, he would find life itself to be no grand adventure, but a most boring and tedious experience. But because God provides, even in the sameness of manifestation, a renewal and the fervor of renewal, a flow of happiness and the concentration of cosmic joy within men in little ways, they are satisfied momentarily with baubles and trinkets in their existence, until such a time as more worthy goals stand before them. Thus let all understand that God has provided for the child in the simplicity of growth toward a maturity of expression. And so, as we beckon to you and say, hasten onward, it is also a recognition of the quietude of God that manifests around you. This great speed, this great motion that we have, that we exhibit from time to time, is also a great stillness in motion that gives us a quality called poise. Now, poise, beloved hearts of light, is so essential for each life stream in the development of the realization of movement. From time to time we hear students say, I do not seem to be making a great deal of progress. In the name of Almighty God, I say, what is progress? And where are you going? You have already arrived at the destination and do not realize it. The destination is the very doorway to your true self-realization, the realization of who and what you are. Will you understand then that this will be an occupation of infinity? And inasmuch as it is the occupation of infinity, will you then be content to realize that what you now are, what you now will be, all of this is already with you, yet is not realized by you? And if you were to realize it all, would it not indeed provide you with a sense of going nowhere? For there is in the very idea of movement, in the very idea of discovery, a vital snap, a vibrancy of life, a quality of fulfillment that speaks to you of God's joy in the very discoveries that he makes known unto you from time to time. If he were to give you all knowledge and all power in your outer selves, in your finite personalities, what would you do with it, beloved ones? It is an activity of light that is within yourself. And when you understand this, when you grasp these principles, not with the human mind, but with the divine soul that is within, it will be the breathing in of the participatory joy of God. You are all participants in the great drama, the grand adventure of existence. And the movement that you experience through the Christ consciousness as flow is the realization of the infinite waves that probe themselves. God, as the infinite, is also God as finite expression, seeking to probe the infinite. Yet that which is finite will be changed in a moment, in the twinkling of an eye, into the infinite. And the joy bells will ring in your heart. And the messages of God will come into the force field of your being, helping you to dislodge the impediments that is huge rocks that cannot be penetrated, calcify your consciousness, stratify it, densify it, and make it so difficult to work with. The angels of God who work with humanity would almost be frustrated if it were not for the great knowledge which they have. of all these laws put into perfect context. Will you then strive with me today to enter into the realization of the expansive nature of God, that albeit you may not have discovered all the reality of yourself, and albeit you may unfortunately possess shadowed concepts of yourselves and others, that these can be shed and transmuted by pure light until you will have that sense of occupying eternity, that every moment will seem to you to be but a drop of eternity compressed into that moment, that every globule of life, such as the manifestation of yourselves, will seem to be but a concentration of good energies. Through the qualification of energy, and not through the sense of movement, man is able to receive the message of God, the message of his deliverance. Through the realization that man is a God-free being, through the power of the sacred fire, through the penetration of the consciousness of God into the force field of the human identity, that identity ultimately sheds its skin. And man, no longer heeding the serpent that whispers in himself the subtle meanderings of shadow and mortal intelligence, will finally discover the infinite intelligence permeating the pores of consciousness and beating that precious heart of light that he really is, with the pulsations of God ideals. No whimsy, but golden wonder then will flood the consciousness. And all will be delight, and all will be the radiance of the message of God spoken to each heart. God will manifest to the individual, and within he will say, I am the Lord thy God. This is the fiat of being. This is the fiat of seeing. This is the fiat of reality. This is the tie to the real in life that raises man upward. And thus he becomes, in essence, a winged messenger of God, speaking unto himself and saying, discover me, for I am the Lord thy God. You were made in his image. All of that beauty is resident there. It seeks to express. But what do? As tiny birds plucking at the earth in search of food, you are concerned with the mineral life, with the outer expression, with the thorns, and the essence of the rose, the sweet perfume of God that grows and glows within you. This is often overlooked. And men are concerned with many things. They are troubled, and their hearts are afraid. When God is near at hand, with those wings of the mind, such as he has fastened unto me. These wings of the mind exalt the mind. They lift it out of what you have termed, beloved ones, the doldrums of human thought and feeling. Only by changing the consciousness, which is the complexion of life, can you actually experience the gifts and graces God would bestow upon you. So long as the consciousness dwells at lower levels, so long as it mulls over old ideas and experiences, so long as the consciousness feels a sense of limitation, the individual then becomes tied to the lethargy of the rocks, the weights of human thought and feeling. But when individuals let go and recognize that it is the fire of the soul that purifies, that regenerates, that raises, that creates the sense of the election within, then will the will of man, tied to divine motives, move him forward in the way God would have him go. A way of delight where the effervescing of the cosmos from within the chalice of his heart flows outward as graciousness to all life everywhere, a beauty that flows, a beauty that glows and vibrates and keeps the mind steady, penetrating as a giant blowtorch all the density of substance, and burning away the brush, the briars, the weeds, and even the soot. From the very vision of man, it provides a magnificent view through the trackless air. Man sees then, glowing around him in this cosmically glowing bubble of infinite perception and reality, that he is all of that and more, that he is potential yet undreamed of, even by what men have termed God, that this potential itself, reaching out to produce the miracle of the golden age upon the earth, seeks to produce it everywhere. A world of sheer delight, of color and movement, a world of beauty and apprehension, but most of all, a world of becoming the nature of God. For when that is discovered and become, then all things are fulfilled, and the transcendent nature of God becomes the transcendent nature of man. Man becomes the transcendent nature of God. Man reaches out to become God and share in the ritual and joy of becoming. And all darkness is cast down, and all hatred, and all despair, and all deceit. For of what need is deceit in a world of cosmic honesty, when the glowing thoughts of God's heart convey the immortal birthright to man? Of what need is hatred, where love abounds and expresses its abundance for each manifestation? Of what need is jealousy, when all are offered the garments of the Lord? Are there any higher? Are there any more wearable? And I tell you truly, of what need is war, when man perceives that God stands ready to convey the fruits of his abundance to every part of life, both naturally through the processes of nature and through the inward processes of divine alchemy. Why do men then feel compelled to sense separation? Why are they jealous of one another, when God has provided the same love and same garments for all? I came with hope, and I came with flow. I came with fire, I came with glow. I manifest joy, the message that's real. I am Mercury, in God's name I heal the shadowed, patched substances that men have taken into themselves and misqualified. I bring forth the breath, the fire breath of regeneration. I consume the dross, I reveal the gold, and all that I am is of him, the Father who is in you. And in our oneness and the spirit of oneness, the miracle of our goings and comings are ever in the Lord. Will you be content then to rest, to let your minds rest in our movement? For our movement is so rapid, so vibrant, so joyous, so complete, that it seems as a chariot of rest. Yet it moves forward. The mind is carried forward, the soul is carried forward, the being is carried forward. May I then, by the power of the Holy Spirit, by the mighty rushing wind of divine grace, bestow upon you all, by his word, according to your faith, the mantle of the wings of grace, eternally moving toward its appointed goals, never stationary, yet ever restful. Completion of cycles comes again and again. Step by step you move forward. In ripples, not always in a straight line. the undulations of the Spirit, are the compassion of God, who would not, in some cases, take you straight as the arrow flies, but permit you the windings, the meanderings that seem so necessary for man in his adjustment to the higher vibratory action of the Godhead. But once you have achieved, I am sure, nothing ever again will deter you from the path that is as straight as the arrow flies. And if we bend then the Cupid's bow of divine love to shoot an arrow of that love into your hearts, you will understand that the bow of Mercury is also the wings of God.